What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be watching a video from Ben Williams, the baby method for learning Chinese fluently. If you've seen this channel before, you know I've got concerns around the baby method, and I've made a fair few videos about this, but let's see what old mate Ben Williams has got to say. And first up, why are all your posters and stuff just in one corner of the board? It's a very big board. Spread it out. You literally got them over it. Okay, this is not what we're here for.
Hi, 大家好。当我们外国人尝试说中文的时候，我们先会想好我们要说什么，在脑子里翻译，然后再说出来。但如果你仔细想一想，这其实很不自然，而且这种学语言的方式很有限的，所以我觉得最好像婴儿一样学习。所以今天我会告诉你们具体怎么做。话不多说，我们开始吧。
Okay. It's clear that he speaks Mandarin Chinese, probably speaks it quite well. I'm not sure what his level is, but I've got a couple of things to say. 因为我发现了最近有很多的 YouTube 频道，那些 YouTuber 他们总是说，我觉得最好的办法学习语言就是用这个像婴儿一样的方法。但是后来我发现了，我找到在他们的频道上，有几个频道，他们说，其实他们小的时候用这个。学习方式，比如说他们上课，还是他们用很多的书Mines dias gels subite volas paroli Esperante, do mi simple daŭrigas tiel. Tamen mi ankaŭ trovis, ke ili komencis eble uzi anki kaj aliajn aplikaĵojn kaj poste tiam ili diras, efektive, mi nun fluiĝas, mi kredas ke la plej bona maniero por lerni lingvon efektive estas lerni kiel bebo. Okay, now that we've done that, let's continue.
So recently I actually came across a channel called 张凯中文. I think that...
Oh, I've seen that channel. His channel is blowing the hell up. His channel grew so goddamn fast, okay? Because he basically just makes, like, videos where he just walks around the house and he uses a direct method approach to teaching languages, which is actually pretty good. It's good for learning a lot of words for, like, everyday items that you just generally wouldn't learn.
That's the name. And I want to give full credit to him because... this is the guy that got me thinking about this and actually implementing it myself.
Wait. That's a brand new channel, like literally brand new. So if you're only implementing this now, like there's no way you learned Chinese after that channel came into existence. I think it's like 3 months old at this point, or maybe more.
But after implementing it for a few weeks now, I've realized the true results of actually studying in this way, and it changes your whole mentality behind learning Chinese. So before we get into it, check out my website, link in the description, and yeah, let's get into point 1. Today's video has 5 points.
If you are interested in getting shadowing practice, I've got a shadowing bank on my website. It's completely free.
Just so you guys are well aware, I would not consider shadowing to be the baby method. It's really hard because everyone uses the terms baby method in a different way these days. And I guess like children shadow in a sense. So like shadowing, you could say is like, it falls under the baby method, but it's generally not what people mean by the baby method.
We've currently got 6 videos. I'm going to be recording a lot more soon, so stay tuned and the link will be in the description.
Okay, point number 1 is stop translating in your head. It's very difficult to actually implement this.
I've never had this problem. I've never once in my life been in a state where I'm translating in my head. I don't know how that actually happens. Like I've never experienced it. I've always been in a state, okay, where I can either say what I want or I can't say it at all. There's never been like an in-between where it's like, I know the words, let me just build an English sentence. No, it either I can say it or I can't. And if I can't say it, usually I'll have the words, well, not usually, but like I can usually find a way to dance around it, okay? So there's no like translating that happens in my head. Now, I can be slow, like with Mandarin Chinese, like I'm not fluent Mandarin Chinese, like there's tons of aspects within the language where it will take me a while to get my thoughts out just because I'm more searching for the Chinese word. It's like as if that word is really rusty in a sense. I feel like this translating the head happens when you go from like a textbook environment and you do a lot of translation exercises, but even then, I don't know, like...
And I'll give you some methods in a minute. But first, just think what that's actually doing to your Chinese. Imagine you're going around your day, you're speaking with Chinese people, you're in China, maybe in the shop, but you're constantly translating everything you're reading, everything you're hearing into English first.
Yeah, see, I've never done that. Never done that. I've never done that for Esperanto, never done that for Chinese, and obviously not for Spanish.
Thinking about it, and then thinking in English, translating it back into Chinese, and then speaking again. Just think what that's doing to your level of fluency.
I feel like this must happen when you are not practiced enough with certain words and structures. Like, I know certain aspects of my Chinese takes on an English grammar, but that's not happening because I am manually translating in the moment. It just happens because that's how I've absorbed the language for whatever reason, okay? And like, those things I can fix with practice and time, but it's not me manually translating.
First of all, it's making it super unnatural because you're constantly pausing, constantly koko baba, but it's also just not how a Chinese person functions. So it's capping your level. So just think what kind of effect that has on your listening and output skill of actually speaking. One mentality that really helps you actually implement this is thinking in concepts and not words. Learning sentence structures in Chinese and implemented words into those sentences so that you can just think of sentences and say them instead of constantly trying to translate word for word. There's a really great Chinese learner in the space called Will Hart. I really
Yeah, he's got a good channel. I like his channel. I've reacted a few times to Will Hart. By the way, all of this doesn't seem like the baby method so far. Just so you're well aware, these actually look like good recommendations.
look up to his Chinese level and what he's done. But he has a company called Chunking Chinese, and it's exactly that idea where you're kind of focusing on building chunks instead of individual words. The best way you can implement this is when you're making your flashcards, don't just add an English translation to the other side. Add an image, add a video that reminds you of that topic without making you think in your native language. Now, I always talk about getting as much output as possible because that's what most learners lack. However, when you're first...
He's right about that as well. Like, output is where I severely lack with Chinese. Like, my comprehension of the language is a lot higher than my ability to output. But that is rapidly changing. You've probably already noticed that.
starting out, input is absolutely key. It's always key, but especially when you're starting out. So my second point is massive input over active speaking at first, just like how a child would learn. Babies who grow up in China get thousands of hours of input just hearing Chinese in the background before they reach real fluency. No matter what stage you're at in learning Chinese, it's always great to get some output and try to use what you've learned to consolidate it. But with this learning approach, don't rush output. See yourself as a child who's simply growing up and needs 10 years to become fully fluent. That's because your brain needs time to absorb patterns just like how a child does. As you guys already know, comprehensible input is great.
Like, I was literally on your channel for 5 seconds before watching this video, because I always do a quick little check, okay? As you can see, I still got it open. And, like, where was it? I saw a video, how I became fluent in Chinese in 18 months. That doesn't sound like the child method at all to me, because you're not reaching a HSK level 5 as a kid in 18 months. So obviously that's different. So far, he's saying get a lot of input, you know, don't try to rush the output side of things, but also output is what people lack. And then now we're moving into comprehensible input territory.
For that, but if I could give you one bit of advice is even if you can't understand everything, still don't rely too much on the subtitles. You can open the subtitles if you really don't know a word, want to know, add it to your flashcard.
If you guys ever watch me doing videos, and you probably will soon when you see my 50-hour update with LingoPie Chinese, I actually struggled to translate things to English a lot of the time. And it's because I don't know the best English translation for things, even though I understand the words. And I've never just done that. And I think that's probably why I don't think in English when I speak Chinese. Although, obviously, my Chinese is still at an intermediate level.
Learn it. But when you're learning content in its entirety, it's better to not, in my opinion, look at the subtitles. It's better to just kind of get the rough meaning and engage ultimately with the video. If you think a child in China who's, say, 4 years old, they're not going to know a sentence like implementing economic strategy to improve welfare of the people. So they might know a few words of that, but they'll hear it in context. And over time, they'll hear it a few more times. And then they'll naturally get to understand the meaning. And at the end of the day, if their parents...
Probably not, actually. That was probably a terrible example for it. They would be concepts that they would study at school, and once they've studied those concepts and they know them, they learn the words via the study of those concepts, and then they're able to... Like, that would actually come from manual learning. A child's not going to pick up those words just via, like, listening to people. Like, I understand where you're going, but that was probably a bad example. Those are literally concepts that you would study at school.
and explain to them what that meant, they'd be using Chinese as well. So it's not like they're translating into any language. They're using the language that they already know to build on that.
And that is true. That's the best way to, if you can, is to learn via the language.
Instead of drawing from their mother tongue, which they don't have, obviously, because we're talking about babies growing up in China here. So that links really well into my next point, which is learning in context and not just single words. As we all know, words are really easy to forget, but if you put them into sentences, we get more emotion and memory hooks, especially if they're sentences that you would say on a day-to-day basis and they're relevant to your life. It really links back to the idea of learning Mandarin in chunks, because if you think in English, the word run has multiple meanings depending on the context. So running a race is completely different to maybe running errands. So you need to know context builds intuition, not translation.
I agree with all of this so far. Yeah, this is definitely good. Learn chunks. You know, focus on specific chunks that you can put into context. Now, of course, when you do this, you'll see it in my Chinese, you'll probably see it in his Chinese, in most people's okay language. There will be times where you'll misapply a chunk and it will seem like you're applying almost like an English structure to the language. The problem is you just need to build bigger chunks in the future to deal with those situations. But first, you want to be able to actually communicate in the language, then you can go back through and iron out all those kinks. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Number 4 is using cartoons. Recently, I've literally been going onto YouTube, typing 动画片, which means cartoon in Chinese, and then literally just click on any one. They've all got subtitles which you can kind of cover over and not look at. But honestly, one thing that really shocked me, because...
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like you got to a pretty good level. I don't know, what, HSK 4, 5-ish, okay. And then you realized you needed to do a lot more listening in order to absorb more of the language. And this is actually probably the best time to be doing a large amount of listening. Like, obviously you wouldn't, like, if you start right at the beginning, listening is going to be slow. It's going to take you a very, very long time. Now, if you're studying all the chunks and you're doing the Anki and all this type of stuff along the way, then that's fine. Do the whole, the whole lot together. But I can see why he's suddenly finding this idea of the baby method to be alluring, because at this level, you need to be moving away from any form of study and focusing purely on the language. I'm assuming up until this point, because he was talking about translating in his head and all that, he was a very, very manual learner without enough input. And now he's transitioned to like what he thinks the baby method is, and he's getting a lot of input, and he's realizing, oh wow, this is actually making my speech more fluid because I'm realizing I can use all these different structures in more diverse and interesting ways because, I've heard them in context and stuff. But all of that study that he's done beforehand has allowed him to get to the point where he's now able to benefit from this.
Originally, I thought I wouldn't be interested in this. It's not my kind of thing. But one, the Chinese is really clear. I can understand it quite well. And even if I don't understand a certain phrase, based off the context of what the characters are doing, I can kind of understand what it means. And the repetition of getting that kind of input over time.
I'm actually curious what that 动画片 he was just showing then is, because it looked kind of interesting.
Makes me think in Chinese a lot more than if I was watching a video with subtitles and I was trying to understand every word, trying to translate it into English, etc. Another thing that...
Yeah, see, he's talking about translating into English there. Like, I don't do that anymore. I'm assuming, because he says he's HSK 5, he knows more words than me. It might have been the case that he manually studied more words than me, but he was having to do manual translation to put those sentences together. If you watch how I spoke at the beginning there, like it was just completely off the cuff, versus him, I was probably more faster, more free-flowing, but making more mistakes. While he was probably more correct and book-like, but slower. And there's benefits to both, obviously. Like, he can focus on getting, like with a more manual method like this, where you study from books and stuff, you can focus on, getting all these structures down pat and slowly slotting together and figuring out all the rules. Well, my method's more of a, I'll speed run it, and I'll fix up the mistakes later type of thing. Like, as long as I can communicate and I can understand, that's all I care about. And then I can come back and I can correct all of these, like, English-like thought processes that have leaked into the language.
What really shocked me was that normally I'd get my input through podcasts, etc., things in my content bank that I use. But cartoons I found to be a lot more engaging because you're following the story of what these characters are doing, and it might be very childish and whatnot, and I agree with that. But it's a lot more contextualized than just a Chinese person sat in front of the camera.
Look, if you're learning a language, you're going to have to get used to the idea of watching cartoons. There's no way around it. Eventually, at some point, you're going to have to watch cartoons. And you do kind of adapt to it, especially if you think about this as like you're living a second life. That's how I think about it. I like to imagine that I'm reborn as like a little Chinese baby, and I'm like, googa gaga, you know, now I get to relive my childhood and watch all those cartoons. And cartoons, can't even pronounce English anymore. But like that, I get to like, you know, grow up once again, just via a different language.
Speaking at you, it's a lot easier to kind of start daydreaming while you're listening, which is a problem that a lot of people get when getting immersion. You might be sat on the bus listening to a podcast, but you might zone out or have to speak to somebody who walks past you for 5 minutes, and then at the end of the day, the past 5 minutes has been wasted, right? So when you're watching a 动画片, you might not be able to do it on the bus or as casually as a podcast, but if you sit down and watch, it's a really good way and really productive to kind of immerse in the environment, I think. I'll leave a few good 动画片 on the screen here. I don't really know the names, I just casually...
Oh god, Peppa Pig, I finished watching that just recently. Yeah, I can't deal with that one. Bonnie Bears, I don't think I've seen that one. Peasant Goat and Big Wolf, maybe that was the one that he was showing.
Watch them, I don't follow them religiously. And tip number 5, even though I say chasing new vocabulary is the ultimate driver of your Chinese, building a strong foundation by embracing repetition instead of new vocabulary is the best thing to do, especially when you're trying to start thinking more in Chinese and learn like a child. Because as I've already said, real fluency comes from hearing the same structures on repeat over time. Simply an equation of quantity of phrases.
Not just hearing them, but repeating them. You also need to repeat them. This is where shadowing can come in quite handy. And also just drilling like certain structures over and over. Like hearing them over and over is not always enough for you to be able to naturally produce them. Sometimes you just need to repeat them yourself a lot.
Frequency and then times by the amount of time that you hear it for. Instead of always trying to learn new words, you can focus on seeing familiar words, but in new contexts. And of course, I'm not banning you from looking up new words. I'm just trying to change your mentality and how you go around learning new vocabulary. So ultimately, repeated exposure leads to more recognition and a quicker response time, so you're not always translating in your head. And ultimately, children, they don't learn by variety, they learn by constant repetition.
Wait, what?
Throughout their childhood.
No, they learn by variety, definitely. Like, they do everything you could imagine. Like, you got children reading books, you got them listening to audiobooks, you got them watching TV, you got them playing with their friends, you got them talking with their parents, getting feedback and corrections, whether they want it or not. Their children randomly shadow people, they randomly shadow the TV shows, they freaking shadow the goddamn dog. Like, they get a lot of variety. That's just a bit of a random statement there. If you want to replicate being a child, like, actually, that's your goal, okay? Then you have to do what a kid does. Yes, they watch TV, but then they also hang out with their friends and they use the language and they don't care about the fact that they make mistakes. They just try to power through and use the language. And then they are forced to go to school and actually study the language and get good at the language and learn about those concepts, such as, you know, what makes the economic benefit for the people and things. So pretty much they do everything. Everything you could imagine, okay? So if you want to learn like an actual child, then you should just use everything at your disposal to try and use the language and have absolutely no care for the fact that you sound like a child. That would be the childlike method. So all of these methods he's mentioned in here are actually good. Like, there's lots of different strategies in here that you can utilize, and I highly recommend. But this is not what I expected when I saw the baby method, because the baby method has been plagued and spoken about on YouTube so much to the point where it's basically become this cliche where people just say, sit down, watch TV for ever, and eventually you'll speak the language fluently. Like, that's what the baby method has become. But like, I'm pleasantly surprised to find out that's not what he's promoting here. Yeah, and also like the channel that he even recommended, that's not even a baby method channel. That's more like direct method instruction. Anyway, yeah, not bad. Pretty good video overall. I'll put a link to his video down in the description below, and I'll see you all in the next video. And if you're not there, I will find you. And I'll do the Googa Gaga method on your thumb, which sounds really disturbing, but I'm sure you're all for it.